So I'm going to stand to the side and I'm okay. Everyone can just hear my voice and that works out just fine. So thank you all for being here this evening and being willing to participate in our question and answer session. We ask for our participants to wait until the end and write questions to ask you. So I will ask you a series of questions that were really interesting. If you're willing to chime in, please chime in anywhere. And if you have something you want to just add on, you can do to anything outside of the question. So our first question is for Veteran Services. I thought it was an interesting question. The person was asking about being in the reserves. And are you eligible for benefits if you are in the reserves or have served in the reserves? Oh, let me give you that microphone too.
Oh, I can talk loud.
You want to pass it between you all.
So that's a yes and a no and a possibility. Reservists, points matter. If you serve in the reserve, points matter. So it depends on the number of points that person had in the reserve that will determine what benefits they might be potentially eligible for. However, if that reservist was injured while on active duty or had any illnesses or disease while on active duty, then there's no bar to that. Anything that happened to you while you were on active duty or active duty for training, then there's a potential for compensation for that. But oftentimes reservists want to know if they're eligible for certificate of eligibility to buy a home. Then that's with a caveat depending on what the points are.
Are there reserve-specific benefits? So I need to talk about the point system. I'm not familiar with the point system, but are there specific ones that make you eligible based upon the number of points that you have?
Reservists serve 1 weekend, well, they do their summer camp, the 2 weeks during the summer, and then they do their weekend, their monthly drill. They get points for those drills. They get points for having those 2 weeks during the summer. That's the points. It's not any difference for me that it would be for him. Points are applied for that. And so we don't know until we have to call the reserve center to find out how many points that person has to determine if they're eligible to use a certificate of eligibility. So we don't know until we ask.
Okay, got it. You were going to pass the microphone to Linzie, and I didn't know if maybe you want to add something to the first question?
Well, and the points really are a lot of times the veterans are trying to retire, and they can retire at age 60 when they have a certain amount of points. They call them good years as they drill once a month and they do the 2-week training. And Lois mentioned that if they were injured while on active duty, but also when they're in drill status during that 2-week training, they may be eligible for a service-connected disability, which gets them enrolled in the VA Medical Center. And today, in order to get enrolled in the VA Medical Center, you have to have served on active duty for 24 consecutive months. Again, there are some exceptions to that rule, but and reserves are in, there are educational benefits based on their reserve times. They have a kind of a different GI Bill that relates to reserves, but that's what it's really all about. Some of them are in for the long run, and the National Guard is very similar. The National Guard is a state agency, but a lot of that is similar when it comes to Guard and reserve. They kind of use them synonymous sometimes.
All right. Well, speaking of roles, and our enforcement team is here from Neighborhood Improvement Services and the work that you do, the next question is for you all. Last week, we heard from City County Planning, and they cover actually quite a bit of information, and you referred to actually the parking on the lawn and all that. I'm glad I haven't seen that as of recent, but I've seen it before. The question is, how does the work of NIS code enforcement intersect? What distinguishes your work from that of City County Planning?
Okay, I'm going to actually let Faith answer that, but I can tell you that our code enforcement officers in NIS focus on housing, non-residential properties and things like that. But we also work very closely with the planning department and their zoning officers. And so I'll let Faith tell you how we do that.
Okay, great.
So our slide had some of the things that people call NIS about. And because of our name, Neighborhood Improvement Services, lots of times residents believe that everything that happens in the neighborhood is NIS's responsibility to respond to. So we had a lot of things that we don't deal with stray dogs either. So front yard parking, I think the best way to think about it is If it's a situation that has something to do with the condition of either the house or the yard, the physical condition, then that's a NIS code enforcement situation, very likely. If it has something to do with how the property is being used, then it comes under the planning department's zoning enforcement. Even we get confused sometimes, so it's okay. You can call Durham One Call and they may reroute you to the wrong place. But that's the easiest way to kind of think about it. If something comes to us, as Constance said, we work very closely with the zoning enforcement team over in planning, and we often go out to properties. We'll send investigators officers from both departments, because there may be a couple of different things going on there. So front yard parking, it's the use of the front yard that's the problem. So you're using the grass area for a parking area, and that's not okay according to zoning ordinance. If that vehicle also happens to be in disrepair, flat tires, up on a jack, that sort of thing, then the zoning folks will call our team and we'll go out and cite for hazardous vehicle.
Okay. I have a question for you related. So last week, the presenter talked about a special number to call to get directly to them to answer the questions or whatever the service need may be. And they said it might be a better option actually than calling one call in some situations. Do you all have a direct number or a way for people to best connect with you for investigations or support?
We actually encourage people to call Durham One Call, and the reason is you have a tracking system there. Now, we have an internal tracking system, but you don't have access to it. So we do encourage people to call Durham One Call, but you can also call our front desk, which is 919-560-1647. And we'll direct that call to one of our inspectors in the area. Is that a good answer?
That's a good answer. I'll also say that since Neighborhood Improvement Services, people think we can do anything, on the weekends and at night, I get a lot of emails about any particular problem. So I'm always sending information to other departments or to our code enforcement officers that, I've gotten this email or I've gotten this call wanting us to answer. So just my name and my email address is out there. So people, even from other cities, will say, what neighborhood would you suggest I move in when I come to Durham? No, I can't do that.
Not even a realtor can do that. And just for you all to know, the Durham One Call number is 919-560-1200. Just if you all don't know that, that's the number.
919-560-1200.
And there's also an app. If you don't know, there's a city county app as well. FYI. So our next question is for elections, which the majority of our questions are tonight. So Derek, there's been a lot of, conversations in the media about elections and the process, and one of those things are voter machines. Durham has had problems with machines shutting down on election day, according to this question. What changes have been made to avoid this in the future?
That's a good question. So in 2019, the Durham County Board of Elections purchased new voting equipment, DS200 optical scanners from Election Systems and Software. We previously used the M100s, which were manufactured first in 1996, and we used them all up through 2018, so they went beyond their expected end of life. We don't expect to have many of those issues, but a lot of the things that you see when a machine malfunctions in the precinct is related to humidity. So it's not actually the machine, it is that the ballot, the ink raises on the ballot when it gets humid, and the machine cannot accept it because its specifications only allow it to accept a ballot that has a certain level of thickness. So a lot of times that's what the issue is. It's not actually a machine issue.
That's interesting. Well, our next set of questions are a lot about photo ID. In the summer, you've done a lot of rounds, a total of 6 rounds actually, to educate people on voter ID laws that are going to be impacting us in the near future. Can you share what the requirements are for photo ID and how long does it take to obtain this proper photo ID?
That's a loaded question. So there's several different forms of ID. You've got a driver's license, NC operator's ID card, veteran ID card, passport, tribal enrollment card, veterans ID, military ID card. There's several expiration requirements. Generally, the ID that's presented cannot be expired for more than 1 year from the date of presentation. That does not apply to military or veteran ID cards or tribal enrollment cards. And there's also an exception for individuals that are over the age of 65 if certain requirements are met to present expired photo IDs. The process for us is actually pretty simple. If you come to the Board of Elections, you fill out an application where we ask for your name, your address, last four of your social security, and your signature. If you fill that out, we find you're a registered voter, we're able to validate the information on that form, we can print a card to you on site. And that card is good for 10 years for you to use, and you can use for other means. And it's not just for people that don't have an ID. Even if you have one and you like to get an NCID card, you certainly can from us. We're also available, as stated earlier, under recent rules or rules to be implemented soon, can take a machine off site and do those issuance.
Moving back to veteran services and the questions we had here tonight about assessing benefits or accessing, benefits. We had a question that works together here. One is about what are the primary barriers to accessing benefits, and is it true that there is a wait time or a significant wait time to access medical care?
One of the barriers in accessing, whether they're talking about filing a claim or VA healthcare, let's say if it's a claim, our office is from 8:30 to 5 daily. Our average wait time is about 15 minutes. And as I indicated earlier, I avail myself for telephone applications to remove any of those barriers for those folks who are disabled and can't, get out and come to us. Home visit, I've also indicated to you. But those are some of the barriers, and we want them to know that those should not be barriers. We will meet them where they are. In terms of VA healthcare service, if a veteran has a copy of their discharge, and we don't like to say just the DD-214, DD stands for Department of Defense, DD-214, because some veterans don't have that document. So we say separation document, but if they have that separation document or that DD-214 and they apply for VA healthcare service, on average, they can expect a response from VA about 10 days. That's on the average. And there's always those one that you get that'll take much longer. But on average, it's about 10 days that you'll get a response from VA saying, hey, congratulations, you're enrolled, or hey, you don't meet the criteria to get in. And once a person has been accepted into the VA healthcare system, all they have to do is pick up the phone and call VA at 919-286-0411, say, I want a primary care physician assigned. Within 5 days, you should have that. And if they don't, that's what we're here for. And there shouldn't be any barriers for folks here in Durham. Can't reiterate that anymore. There should not be any barriers for folks here in Durham because we're going to make this a seamless process. But those are some of the barriers that veterans run against because they don't know that we're here. They don't know how to access our service, and they're trying to negotiate with the Department of Veterans Affairs. Durham County paid us to make your life a little easier, and so we're here to do that. And so you shouldn't have to negotiate direct with VA. Let us negotiate on your behalf.
How do you reach out to people? What is your most common way of reaching out to veterans in our community?
We do community outreach. As I indicated, we were out in Bahama 2 weeks ago. We go wherever you guys invite us. We go to churches. We're hoping to get a mobile vehicle this last budget year. That didn't happen, but we sort of partnered with the library. They have this wonderful mobile unit. And they decided they would let us partner with them, and we going to be able to go out and use that unit. But we wanted a smaller vehicle so we can show up at the beauty salon or the barber shop or at the grocery store, anywhere that we could drive up and pull that VA van there. So we do community outreach. We have an outreach coordinator who is Jonathan Crooms. He's our outreach coordinator. He goes over to Urban Ministry every Monday. He goes to the Durham VA Medical Center. I mean, we go anywhere that we can. Like I'm stopping, I see veterans everywhere I go. When I pull up in the grocery store, and you know, I'm reaching out to them. So, 2 years ago, we had this wonderful Department of Veterans Affairs came to Durham. They brought 27 of their staff to Durham to do applications on the spot. On that particular day, they did 104 applications. $426,000 was awarded on that particular day. So we try to come up with any kind of way that we can to reach them. Part of the Veterans celebration is an opportunity to reach out to veterans. Yeah, it's a good time, but we also want to educate them while they're there and tap into the resource. And the community is invited. It's a community event. And someone said, well, I thought this is about veterans. We can't do this by ourselves. We need our community to help us. So,
Just quickly, when I heard the question about barriers and the wait time, I was thinking along the line of, sometimes I think the veteran, him or herself, are the biggest barrier because they don't want to deal with the bureaucracy. They don't want to deal with the paperwork or, to prove that I'm dealing with this disability or this condition because of something that happened while I was in the military. And a lot of them don't know that or understand that, so lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, and then thinking it's going to be a very complicated process. And it may have been, it has gotten so much better now. They got things called fully developed claim. You come in, we help you with identifying that incident in the military and showing you have a current diagnosis and getting that claim filed. In 2 to 4 months with all the right information, you can get a claim turned around and know whether or not you're eligible for benefits based on a disability. Having myself been enrolled in the Durham VA Medical Center, I have not experienced the kind of waits that you've heard in the media. I can tell you the VA Medical Center has done a lot. When you get there, you check in. If you haven't been seen in 15 minutes, someone is checking on you to see or to let you know what's going on. So there are always going to be exceptions, but for the most part, the VA heard and they are responding. I'm an advocate. I think the VA does a great job considering the demand, the increasing demand on the resources that are there. But the veteran, him or herself, really, to me, can be the biggest barrier to accessing any of those services on the medical side or on the benefit side. I mean, the cemetery side is going to work itself out.
Well, on that cemetery question, I asked a lighter question. Someone asked Derek, has there ever been any discussion about holidays being connected with voter or election day, making election day a holiday in the Durham community?
Whoever asked that question, please come see me so that we can lobby together and make that happen. One of our biggest bottlenecks on election day, and one of the reasons that you may have lines or there may be complaints about parking, is usually the place that we're operating in most cases, schools. Boards of elections, 100 boards of elections in North Carolina have the authority under law to demand to use any tax-supported facility in full or in part. So that's why you see us in a lot of schools, because we have the right to demand the schools and also commandeer adequate parking for voting. We can't get into a lot of these nice big churches, and some people may have issues with that, but generally churches are easy for us because they're not closed and not in operation. So that would take definitely some legislation for that to happen. It's been knocked around, I think, for several years. We're currently working with Durham Public Schools to make election days, no matter whether it's municipal or federal, for them to close schools to decrease some of the bottlenecks we have at our schools, which make up a good chunk of our precincts on election day.
Well, speaking of students and children, how does a child who has moved out of state how do you remove them from the voter roll? And will that also get that person off the jury duty roster?
I'm not sure about the jury duty roster. I know that the courts obviously pull from voter registration rolls when they're trying to find people to select for jury duty. In terms of whether a voter moves, we certainly encourage every voter that moves to let us know so we can remove them from the rolls. There's also several checks that we do in North Carolina. We do a statewide duplicate check. We also work with other states to do some cross-check activities if we notice registrations in other states. A lot of the removal processes in North Carolina are automated. So the statewide elections information management system, which we use to manage all elections processes, is actually merged with the Department of Motor Vehicles database in North Carolina. Same thing with it's merged with the Department of Public Safety to track felons. But DMV is the biggest source of data for people moving back and forth. And so a lot of times if we see a match that someone's moved, let's say to Mecklenburg from Durham, SEAMS will automatically remove that person based on that DMV data. And we also have some systems where we're able to cross-check across states for those that have entered into an agreement with us to keep the rolls clean.
NIS team, we have a question about matching grants, and it was highlighted in your presentation. This person wants to know, can you explain what the neighborhood matching grants and poverty reduction efforts are again? You can just do a brief overview, and we'll definitely have the PowerPoint on the website, so you can go back and look, but give us a brief overview.
Okay, and I'll start and I'll let James Davis finish that, since that's he as the Assistant Director over Community Engagement and Human Relations. But the Neighborhood Matching Grant started, like I said, 3 years ago, and it's a program that we use to encourage people to come together, to get to know each other, to build neighborhood cohesion, and to learn to share with each other, and just become neighborly. And so we give $2,500 grants, and it's about 10 grants per year. And there's an application process. One of the things that the community has to do, and they can do it any project of their own choosing, as long as it's neighborhood-based and it's resident-based. The people who live in that neighborhood have to be a part of this process, because that's what we're trying to do. It takes about 3 or 4 months of planning, and there's the neighbors coming together, planning their project. They complete the application. We actually want to know that they've done the work in planning. You do not have to be a nonprofit. You can just be a neighborhood group that's even loosely organized, but you have to have a leader so that we can have someone to be responsible for the funding that you will get. And the objective is, like I say, bringing neighbors together. And I think, and that's, so we give out 10 a year. The focus is not on the money, for them to raise the money to do the work. It's about bringing people together. So you'll see that our volunteer percentage is very high. We ask for a 1-to-1 match, and you can do that through volunteer, in kind, or cash. And you can see that we have 94% of the match is volunteers, and that's meaning people coming together, working together in their community. And James can give you more information, but then Mayor Bell, before he left, we had the Mayor's Poverty Reduction Initiative that started on the mayor. And one of the things that he wanted to do was to go into those areas, those census tracts that had the highest rate of poverty. And he wanted us to work with those communities to reduce the barriers and provide enablers for people to come out of poverty. So we did a lot of, we organized people in the community. We built capacity in the community where people could actually hold meetings around what they needed to do around reducing barriers to housing, to affordable housing, food, dealing with food deserts, making sure that people had access to food pantries. We did a lot of job training. We actually had a program called Building Futures, and that program was where we worked with Durham Tech to train people on basic carpentry 101, also OSHA training, and some other kinds of trainings. And what we had 7 people who who came from the low-income community over in East Durham, Census Tract 10.01, and they were put in training on how to do construction work, and 5 of those people completed that training, and 3 of those people went through the whole program where they actually worked and repaired 7 homes of low-income people in East Durham. And so that was a big success. One of the things we provided through that program is we help people get jobs. And when people felt that they couldn't get to work, we made sure they had bus passes. If one person didn't have any food, he had lost his job, we went and worked with his supervisor to get his job back. He didn't have food, we got him food, and we got him a bus pass. So those are the kinds of things that the the poverty reduction program has done. And now we're bringing it citywide. Any areas that have a high concentration of poverty, we're looking to do those same kinds of things in the city of Durham.
Hi, my name is James Davis, and that's about all I can add because Constance said about everything about those 2 particular programs. So I guess we can bring the next question.
Okay, and actually this would be our last question because we're going to wrap up for the evening. Can you tell us, Derek, when will the photo ID be required again? I mean, when will it be required, excuse me?
So the first election in 2020, March 3rd is election day. Early voting starts February 12th. I don't have the exact date for absentee by mail, but that will start 60 days prior to the March 3rd election. So the first iteration of ID requirements will actually be for those turning in absentee by mail ballots because the photo ID requirement applies to those as well. And I've been told to tell you why we're wearing our I voted stickers. This was a program in conjunction with City of Durham Neighborhood Improvement Services. We put together an I voted sticker contest for the City of Durham last year, and the general election was our first election rolling out the new sticker. And we'll be doing one again starting at the end of the year for our next round of stickers. So these will go away. That's an incentive for you to vote, so you can get one and archive it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all so much. If you have time to hang out at all with them, they're about to move into a project, but if anyone has a burning question, please feel free to pull them before they leave. Thank you all so much for your time.